everybody? Happy Saturday to you. I hope you are having a great Saturday and an amazing weekend so far. My name is Don Terrell, and I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion. I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades, and I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that, like I said, after 5 years, I'm crazy about aesthetically. You know the drill. Hop into the comments, say, hey, where you tuning in from. I am going to be completely honest with you. I have no idea how this episode is going to turn out, which is the nature of live, but we are going to see. We are here every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and the Facebook group and the website for the show. Like I said, I always encourage everybody to get plugged into the YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit the bell notification where you're tuning in from. Definitely get plugged into the family. Like I said, I come from a large family, so I definitely am trying to grow this family, this Color of Motion family here. So please get subscribed and get plugged in. The goal of the show is to really help the community and really help the community thrive. Like I said, this is going to be an interesting show. But before we kick this off, I want to thank the sponsor for the show, today's episode, DG Graphics. They do all our graphics, overlays, animations. They help us look good. If you're a business or a brand that's looking to level up your brand design, your brand content, then definitely reach out to them. And I always want to thank them for being a great sponsor to the show. All right. I think that's pretty much the short, on the housekeeping stuff. Like I said, this is going to be an interesting one, but I felt like this was definitely a great opportunity to kind of dive a little deeper into some discussions. So with that, let's get the show on the road, right? Yes, we are back, and we are rocking on all the channels. So I think we are pretty much good to go. Like I said, this episode, I'm not sure how it's going to come out, but obviously, as you can see, and I want to thank all my viewers for tuning in, because this is the final episode before we take hiatus. And like I said, definitely, you're going to see this is not the episode that obviously I had scheduled, but I feel like it kind of opens up this opportunity to kind of get into a little deeper conversation about some things, the show, and just, AI and some other stuff. But with that, like I said, obviously you can see I'm not my guest. That is what's scheduled to come on to the show. And this is something I've been kind of, trying to work through most of the day as coming up on the show. But was informed that my guest declined to come on the show, and in all good conscience could not come on the show because I changed my avatar. I'm not going to say changed my avatar, because that's not the reason, she declined coming on the show. She declined coming on the show because I used generative AI to create it. Let me hop over here to this scene here. And I totally respect that. Like, we had this conversation going back and forth. I respect all my guests' opinion on where they stand on anything. It's because it's their opinion. It's coming from their perspective. But again, like I said, she felt like coming on would, one, and this is the image right here. I took a picture, or I took my picture, this picture here, which is a profile picture of me, and I ran it through ChatGPT just to see, what it would come up with. But I changed my avatar. I used it on my avatar for YouTube and my personal Facebook page. My LinkedIn avatar picture is this one, with the professional one there. But I changed it on that. And so she felt like if she came on here, her community would get the impression that she was condoning the use of generative AI. And again, like I said, I totally respect, her position on that. And I definitely do not want it to be known that she did not want to come on the show. She did, going back and forth. She said she would come on the show if I removed the images, my avatar images. And I thought about it for a minute, but then I declined. And I'm going to give 2 reasons why I did decline to do that. And that's not to say, and again, I think we had a great conversation, and I feel respectful. Like I said, I'm always respectful, and I hope all my guests feel this, that I'm respectful of, their point of view, their opinion, and that's part of the whole purpose of the show is for them to come on and talk about their point of view and about the things that are going on within the industry. But like I said, I totally, respected that, and left the, invitation for her to come back onto the show and express it, express her strong opinion about generative AI. And I think over the conversations that I've had, with my past guests about, just generative AI, because it's a conversation that obviously, as a creative, you cannot not have, because it's just something that's going on in the industry. Let me take a swig here. So it's a conversation, that I enjoy having with my friends and guests that come on. And I would say 90%, if not more, probably do fall on that side where they're not for generative AI, but there are that small percentage that, and I'm an artist, I'm a creative, so I get the ramifications of stealing somebody's work, and stealing a creative's work and using creative work without permission. I get all of that as a creative. Yeah, I'm for that. But I'm also a creative in the sense that I think technology affords, the creative this chance to see how they can use it, whether they can or not. That's on them to decide whether it's something that they can use or can't use. Me, I'm on the side, which, like I said, I've always said, that I think there are instances where, it can benefit the artist in what they're doing. Now, as an end result or a quick, like I said, that quick cut or shortcut to something, that's where I'm like other artists. I have a problem with that, let alone put aside just the using and scraping of somebody's work. But just the quickness of people thinking, that's what generative AI is. But I tend to fall on the side that, creatives, they're not going to use it as a one-stop thing. Really, true creatives aren't going to use it as a one-stop thing. True creatives, they'll look at it and see if there's a way that they can incorporate it into what they're doing. Now, again, everybody has, their stance on, whether they're very for it or very against it. And like I said, being on the show and talking to the friends that I've had people on both sides of it, and I myself, when it first kind of kicked off was on that side of just, staunch against it. But I guess as I've gone through and as time has gone on, and just the nature of how I look at technology and a tool as a whole, how can I use it in my creative process is how I look at it and how I think that true creatives or other creatives look at it. Now, like I said, this is, AI, generative AI. This whole industry is so young. It's still so new. And like I said, there's always going to be these, people that use it in the wrong way. And so I have to apologize again, to my guests or even though her community that may have shown up, I don't know, that I was realized that she's not on, may have shown up. I have to apologize, for her not coming on. But like I said, the offer was out there to come on the show. I just didn't agree to the request, which was to remove, like I said, my image from my YouTube channel and from my Facebook page. And like I said, I did it because of two reasons. Again, really, was that I felt like that was, if I did it, it would compromise the value, just the undervalue of the show and what the show is really all about. Just this, it's for creatives. It's not to say, that, and I think true creatives, understand that, they're never going to be replaced by AI. But I feel like there is a space in here for generative AI to be used, whether it's through iteration, ideation, whatever it may be. I think there's a space that it can be used for the creative to elevate their whatever it is that they're creating. Like I said, it's not a one-stop thing to get you from point A and you're at point B. No, and I don't think any true creative thinks that way. I may be naive, but that's kind of how I look at most creatives. It's a small, if they use it, it's a small piece of a bigger puzzle of the project that they're working on. And like I said, we can always get into the ethics of companies that are using it or scraping, artists' artwork and using artists' artwork the wrong way, this and that. There's always going to be that conversation. That's never going to go away. But I think there is this place where, I'm excited to see what real, honest to goodness, trained creatives can use and leverage this kind of this space, this tool, this thing. And that's not to say that, we still don't need a lot of legislation and stuff on it, obviously, to do, which she did post or put a link to Glaze, their software, obviously, with the advent of obviously generative AI that brings into play the creation of businesses that are against generative AI and come up with tools and things that, obviously combat generative AI. And Glaze is one of them. I have Glaze. I use Glaze on some of my artworks that I'm posting. It's in Glaze. If you happen to catch this broadcast, I think you would be a great sponsor because you're a great tool that benefits a creative, that helps to protect a creative. So in that respect, I think it's a great tool. And like I said, I am going to share the link. She shared a link with Glaze. When it first came out, I tested it, tried it out. Excuse me. Tested it, tried it out. It's great. Like I said, it's a great tool. I think it's, like AI, it's only going to get better as time goes on. And like I said, I think it's a great tool that is beneficial for the creator. So I would definitely promote Glaze. But like I said, even on that flip side, as a creative, especially the ones that just like experimenting with things, I feel, it's a viable tool now, especially if it's your work. Like I said, this was my photo I wanted to see, and it just kind of came out. Like I said, I think it looks like Michael or Magic Johnson, but like I said, some of the other ones I've seen, and like I said, the reason I liked it is because it looks okay. I have, like I said, got a friend who's done the same thing with my images in Midjourney and some of the other ones, and they haven't really come out quite right. I never really quite liked them, and it's really dependent on the image, but like I said, this was just Chat GPT, and I just threw it into Chat GPT just to see what it would spit out, and like I said, it's I like it. It's a nice image. Now, again, does that say, because I use it, because I like it, does it say that, I'm for generative AI and nothing else? I don't think so. I would hope not. And I would hope my viewers, after I don't know how many episodes, would know my stance and my thoughts on AI, generative AI, because AI in and of itself is a pretty wide thing, and it, like I said, it spans across a lot of industries. But, from the industry, our perspective in our industry, it's obviously generative AI. Mr. Dewan, let me throw some of these in here. I got to put this over here because this is, let me hide these here. Where's my images? Okay. Happy Saturday. Your cartoon avatar doesn't look bad, but you're right about authentic creativity being vastly superior. Yeah, like I said, I don't think anybody's going to question. And like I said, I don't think I've ever said that generative AI is ever going to surpass the human experience. I think I've always said, I don't care how good AI gets or progresses, it's just never going to be better than the human experience. And that's just my thought. Now, there are obviously people that are creating AI that and building AI that think differently. Part of that is, like I said, part of that is just my thinking, and part of that is, it comes from faith, my faith, and I don't think you can't beat God. And this isn't a religious thing, but it's just about, I don't think you can ever beat or surpass this human thing, human experience. As hard as we try, and as hard as we try to create life, sentient life, I don't think we'll ever, get to that point. That's me personally. I may be proved wrong. Maybe in my lifetime, maybe not in my life, maybe after my lifetime, that may be proved wrong. But that's just my, opinion. And I think, like I said, I think real, artists know and creators know that even with the advent of AI, it's not going to replace them. They're just things that AI can never touch with what they do. And I try and keep that in mind with that. But I felt like if I did that, like I said, I want to go back to like I said, the fact that she would have came on. So I don't want people to think that she did not want to come on the show. She would have came on, but she just asked me to remove the images, and I declined that. And like I said, I did it for kind of two reasons. One, I felt like it would compromise just the essence of what the color of motion is all about. And two, I felt like it would compromise me as a creative. The ability and just the choice of trying different things and experimenting with different tools. And so with that, that's why I declined. But like I said, we left on, we talked on great terms. And I told her with no, hesitation or reservation, I wanted to come back on the show, and it's always open. And like I said, I am so glad that I've had guests come on the show that share her opinion, maybe not quite as strong, but they share her opinion of generative AI. Um, and we've had a great discussion. You can go back and check out. And I would hope, like I said, I don't think they will because I do plan on having guests back on the show. I don't think they would not come back on the show or not, associate themselves with me because I, happen to use, um, you know, generative AI in my pipeline of things that I create. I don't know. I guess time will tell on that. I don't, I'm a half full kind of person and tend to think that way. But yeah, Dwan, like I said, I'm in that same mind. Like I said, the human, creative, authentic creativity it's just better, and AI is not gonna, kind of come close to that. But again, I don't typically, you know, I don't use like generative AI in the sense of that. But again, I feel like there's these spots where for that right person, it works, and it's something that could help them, and still done ethically. Because it's not like I'm generating this and that's my artwork. It's somebody else's artwork or it's pieces of somebody else's artwork. But part of a thing, and I use the instance of, because I saw this and I thought it was an interesting kind of application for it. I guess, you could use it. Most VFX people use it and most compositors, I guess, use it. But I saw a tutorial on, After Effects and I think it was Film Riot was showing them behind the scenes of this shot they wanted to recreate from a movie. And it was a kind of a science fiction shot of a just superhero kind of guy floating in the air, levitating rocks, and kind of in this Gothic church. But what they said they did was they used generative AI to, in essence, create a matte painting that they were going to use in the background of a church, just a Gothic church, which, after the final project, you really couldn't tell or what it was. And like I said, I think in those instances where you have a small team, a small person or solo person trying to put something together, whether it's ideas or a pitch idea or something like that, like I said, I think it's a great tool to help you ideate on ideas that you have in your head, or even with some elements in a final project. Like I said, I think, I don't think that would have been any different than had they went to Getty Images and just pulled the image of a Gothic church in the background, and then just blurred it, put it as a background layer, and then just blurred it. Kind of would have been the same thing. But again, I think there's going to be this kind of long, obviously, discussion on, I'll keep this. There's going to be this obviously kind of long discussion. Like I said, generative AI is it's here, and it's not going anywhere. Like I said, I try to make this show a show that all my guests can express however it is that they feel about this. And like I said, I've had some great conversations with guests that they don't like generative AI and they think it's not a good thing. And like I said, in a lot of areas, I agree with her. But I may fall into that small minority that feels that there is, I think, a space where it can be beneficial to creatives. And you may think that's, I don't know, kind of playing the fence. It's just, I don't know. That's just how I think. There are tools, tools are, they're there to be useful if you find them useful for what you're doing. is all I can say. But at any rate, I do hope she comes back on the show at some point. Maybe after, I guess, I take down my avatar or change it, type of thing. And I could have, like I said, I could have farmed. Well, I wouldn't have farmed it out to a freelancer, just something as simple as this. But I could have done it myself. I could have drew it myself easily. Sat down and created a tune thing myself. But I wanted to try. And that was, like I said, one of the reasons why I declined her request for me to take down, for her to come on the show, for me to take down the images, is because it was something that I just wanted to experiment with. And I think as creatives, any creative, you have the right and just this place to experiment with things, as long as it's done in an ethical way, I guess. As long as you're not stealing somebody's artwork, as long as you're not compromising somebody in any unethical way, I tend to look at it being kind of useful in some areas. We may disagree on that, but that's the beauty of diversity. It's different. That's the whole beauty of diversity, is being different. With that, like I said, this was not my intended way to close out this quarter. This is the last episode before we take hiatus. But I am super excited about the show in the next couple of weeks, because we got some great guests coming on. So definitely want you to tune back into that. And I'm definitely going to be replaying highlight episodes during the hiatus. But again, I felt like I said, I obviously had to come on, and still do the show. It's just the nature of the show, the nature of me. The show's going to go on. Obviously, with it being live, and I've said this before, you kind of roll with the punches of how things kind of play out. And this was definitely an interesting one. Like I said, very good, because it was something that I never experienced, I guess, before. Like I said, it gave me a chance to, not that I didn't before, respect other people's, kind of position on, their thoughts on things, but it gave me a better position of being able to, understand that that's, position, and I totally understand that. Mr. Dewan, I don't know why I keep having these images. Let me take these down. And let me hop over to my solo scene here. Mr. Dewan. Sorry about the situation now, and hopefully Anise will come back. I'm hoping she does too. Like I told you, and like I told her, the invitation is always open. Definitely. And that's the whole purpose of the show, is to come on and talk about whatever point of view, however strongly that point of view may be. And come on and express that. And again, I'm thankful that I've had numerous people to do that, that's come on to the show. Hopefully, again, which I don't think they will, but hopefully they're not going to hold the fact that I use ChatGPT against me, or that I'm against artists. That's not the case. But yeah, like I said, my goal is always to have her back on the show, and come back on, for sure, Dewan. And as always, I appreciate, I have to say that I appreciate all my viewers, and my goal is definitely never, ever to kind of let the viewer down or disappoint. That's why, regardless, up or down, whatever happens, I got to come on live when it's time for me to come on live. I can, kind of sugarcoat things for you, but I try not to do that, because, again, that kind of goes against the essence of what I want this show to be. So I try and be honest with you when things come up, when things happen, and explain to you, why and what happens. But I'm super excited that, she will come back on the show. Definitely, again, this is a relatively short one. Usually my ones go very, very long. And like I said, I don't think really it made that big of, at least I don't think so, because I didn't get a lot of comments when I did change one way or the other, good, bad, when I did change my avatar. Let me get it over here. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, people didn't really notice that I changed my avatar. A couple of people did, obviously, but they weren't, averse to it or negative. It wasn't good or bad either way. It was just I changed my picture. But like I said, and I have been thinking about and looking to kind of experiment. I don't think, obviously it's not going to be, I don't think I can do it, generatively wise, but I have been thinking about how can I have an animated version of me, or animated host version of me. And I'm kind of looking at Character Animator because that has a live stream aspect to it. So how can I kind of connect Character Animator to it and stream live a little animated character of myself? I don't think it's not going to be this, but it's going to be 2D one that I want to experiment with, kind of change things up. But I'm always, like I said, the goal is to make the show as entertaining, informative, and engaging as possible. And I hope that I'm thinking I've done that. And I hope that I've done that to this point. Let's see. Like I said, I want this to be an interactive one because I would definitely, like I said, love to hear back. I don't know if any of Anise's or my guest community is on, but I definitely would love to know one way or the other. Your thoughts on generative AI. Now I know, like I said, my base, they're artists. My followers, the community are creatives. So the first notion is generative AI is not the way to go. It's not the way to go. But again, I feel like there are these small little pockets of spaces where it can be used and used in the right way. And that's, like I said, that's just, my opinion. Not everybody's got to, go along with that. But again, like I said, this being an interactive show, I always want to know what you think about it, what your thoughts are about it. Again, this was a hard one. This episode, you may not think it, but this was a hard one to kind of get through. As short as it is, I am. You might want to change the title of the stream once you're done. Yeah, I am. The thumbnail, obviously, the thumbnail and the title is going to be different. But I've been trying to think of a title, an engaging title that encapsulates it, this episode. So, yeah, the title, the title will be, again, like I said, my goal is to always, bring the show, obviously, that I've been promoting throughout the week to my viewers and guests. Let me close this. Appreciate that, Duane. Obviously, yeah, like I said, my goal is to always, have the show that, is advertised and that I promote during the week. And I'm always looking forward to that. But again, the nature of how things go. Fortunately, this isn't wood, but I'll knock on it. I haven't had too many episodes where, something like, this is kind of going on off. It's just tougher when it's kind of last minute type of thing because you're having to really do some serious kind of pivoting. And then again, trying to come out with, some good meat and good information through the whole thing, and not make it like, this kind of bash episode or downer episode. I feel like that's why I said it was tough thinking about how I was going to get through this, but I felt like, just having a kind of a little deeper conversation about generative AI. And again, I've been looking to do, which I may do later on in the year, a panel of a little bit more guests and having not just a conversation about AI, although you know how that conversation is going to go, but just a conversation about the industry. So definitely wanting to have kind of a multi-panel show episode where I can get some of my friends back on and really have a good conversation. I'm so excited, man, of the episodes coming up and the guests I'm trying to get on the show. I have a lot of great friends that are working on some amazing stuff, and definitely looking to have them excited about having them come back on and share the things that they're working on. So it's, the the season goes by so quick. Like I said, closing out quarter 2, we got 2 more quarters to go, and it's gonna be like gangbusters, and it's hard to believe. I hit 200 episodes. I think November. Somewhere in November, we hit 200 episodes. So definitely gonna plan something special for that. Hopefully have some past guests come back on and have some fun. Definitely trying to think about how I want to do the 200th episode. I really want it to be big. I really wanted to do well. I really wanted to have fun doing it. I'll be honest, 200 episodes doing this, I would not have imagined when I started doing this show. And it's, like I said, it's been fun. And I've made some amazing friends like DeJuan here. Looking forward to the next quarter. Definitely am myself. Looking forward to the next quarter as well. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. This has been kind of a small episode. I was expecting it to. But hopefully, again, as most of my shows are on the replay, hopefully people will pick this up on the replay. And like I said, the thumbnail and the title for the show, definitely will be changed. Got to think about how I'm going to cleverly put this, in a fun way. Like I said, I feel if I can't laugh at this, I'd probably be crying about the whole situation. So you got to find some humor in it, Got to find humor in things to get you through it. And definitely do it live. You got to. Oh, man. This has been, like I said, a short, but interesting and fun. It's always fun jumping on live with my guests. Definitely. It's always better. And I'm always like it better when I have things kind of mapped out and planned. The impromptu ones are great, but definitely the ones where you're having to kind of explain some things that have gone wrong aren't quite the fun ones that you would like. But like I said, you get through it. This show is the best show, the best guests, the best viewers. And I enjoy bringing it to you each and every Saturday. And I'm going to continue to do it till you stop. All right. Like I said, I guess I'm going to get off on this one relatively quick. This is a 40-minute show. Unless there's, just a free-for-all topic. I'm down for that. Having a good free for all topic. There's been a lot of stuff going on within the industry. A lot of great content. A lot of great animations coming out. Like I said, I'm super excited about some of the projects that not only a lot of my friends are working on and have been working on, and super excited to share. Been testing out some new equipment, so looking to kind of have fun with that and bring a little bit more tighter show for sure. So, like I said, season 5 rolling into quarter 3 is gonna be fire. It's gonna be fire. All right. As my friend, well, he's not my friend, Matthew McConaughey would say, all right. We are going to close this one out. This, like I said, this has been a great episode. I always enjoy and always, even after the fact, enjoy coming on and doing the show. It's always stressing before the show, doing the show. People ask, do I still get nervous? Do I still get, jittery? Yeah. Even after 5 years, yeah. Just before I hit that live, yeah. Even doing it, yeah. I still get nervous and jittery. But it's fun doing it, and you kind of lose yourself in doing the show, for sure. So, man, like I said, this was not kind of the way that I intended to kind of close out. So I do, in all, funness and just kind of this whole the show, I do have to apologize because, like I said, my intentions always are to bring the best, the best show that I can possibly bring. And like I said, I know that a lot of people were expecting, a different show. But again, it just didn't work out that way. But I hope I, was just honest enough with you on just why it didn't work out that way. And hopefully, like I said, we'll get her back on the show and have a great conversation. All right. With that, I think we can kind of close out this last episode. Man, I'm going to miss you guys the next couple of weeks, but it is so needed. These breaks are so needed, and these hiatuses are so needed. It gives me a chance to recharge. It really does. And definitely after these first 2 quarters, I'm going to need time to recharge. With that, like I said, you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Again, thank you for always supporting the show. I hope you continue to support the show. My goal is to always continue to be there and bring you the best show. And so I cannot thank you enough, the viewers, and I can't thank my guests and friends enough for coming on and being a part of the show. With that, you have a great rest of the week and a productive next couple of weeks. Check out the replays that come up and definitely check out the show notes when the episode goes up on the playlist. Like I said, there will be a link to Glaze that she shared with me. Everybody check out. It is a great piece of software. I think definitely something that, like I said, will help the creative community for sure. All righty. With that, have a great one, and I will see you. I can't say next week. I will see you, same bat time, same bat channel. Cheers, everybody.